I never meant to destroy Christmas. But when you discover your father has another family hidden away in Denver, timing becomes secondary to truth. The photo sat in my laptop bag all through dinner, burning a hole in my conscience while Mom made excuses for his empty chair. Robert's flight got delayed in Denver again, she said, passing the honey-glazed ham to my sister Emma. You know how business trips are this time of year. I did know. I knew exactly how many business trips Dad had taken to Denver over the past 5 years. 78. I knew because I tracked every flight, every hotel charge, and every carefully hidden bank transfer since I started working at Morgan Stanley's forensic accounting division. The truth started with a simple database cross-reference. I was running a standard audit on corporate housing expenses when his name appeared. Robert Preston, Regional Director at Apex Technologies. 2 addresses, 2 sets of dependents, 2 lives, perfectly balanced like his accounting books. Sarah? Mom's voice pulled me back. Would you like more potatoes? I looked at her face, still beautiful at 56, carefully made up for a husband who wouldn't show until later, if he showed at all. No thanks, Mom. I'm good. Emma shot me a look across the table. She knew something was wrong. We'd always been close, despite the 3-year age gap. When Dad missed her college graduation for a critical board meeting, I was the one who held her while she cried. He'll be here by dessert, Mom announced to no one in particular. He always makes it for dessert. The Christmas tree lights twinkled in the corner, casting shadows on the family photos lining our mantel. Happy snapshots of vacations, graduations, orchestrated moments of perfect family harmony. All lies. Actually, I said, reaching for my bag, we should talk about Dad's trips to Denver. Mom's fork paused halfway to her mouth. What about them? I pulled out the folder I'd compiled. 5 years of credit card statements, property records, and school registration forms. On top lay the photo that had confirmed everything. Dad at a backyard barbecue, his arm around a blonde woman maybe 10 years younger than Mom. 3 kids, all under 12, clustered around them. Everyone smiling. Everyone home. Sarah, Emma warned, seeing my hand move toward the evidence. Maybe not now. But I was done waiting. Done watching Mom make excuses. Done pretending we didn't all feel the hollow space where a father should be. His flight isn't delayed, I said quietly. He's having Christmas morning with his other family. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. Mom's hands trembled slightly as she set down her wine glass. What are you talking about? I placed the photo on the table between the turkey and cranberry sauce. Emma's sharp intake of breath seemed to echo off the walls. Mom didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at the image of her husband's other life laid bare between the Christmas china. They live at 1542 Aspen Grove Drive. I continued, my voice steady despite the chaos in my chest. The kids are Marcus, age 11, Sophie, age 9, and Lily, age 6. Their mother's name is Jennifer. Dad bought the house 5 years ago under an LLC. Stop. Mom's voice cracked. Just stop. He's been transferring $8,000 monthly from a hidden account at First Colorado Bank. The kids attend Denver Preparatory Academy. Annual tuition is $32,000 each. Emma reached for Mom's hand, but she pulled away, still staring at the photo. How long have you known? 3 weeks, I admitted. I needed to be sure. To gather proof before. The front door opened, letting in a blast of December air and the sound of footsteps in the foyer. Dad's voice called out, cheerful and oblivious. Sorry I'm late. Denver Airport was a nightmare. He walked into the dining room, still unwinding his scarf, his cheeks red from the cold. It took him exactly 4 seconds to register the silence. 3 more to see the photo. One final moment for his face to drain of all color. Robert, Mom whispered, and somehow that single word carried 28 years of marriage, 2 daughters' childhoods, and 1,000 shattered promises. Dad's eyes darted between us, landing finally on me. Recognition flickered there. He knew exactly how I'd found out. "Sarah," he started, "you don't understand." "Actually, Dad," I cut him off, pulling out the rest of the folder. "I understand perfectly. Would you like me to explain it to Mom, or would you prefer to tell her yourself?" The Christmas tree lights kept twinkling, casting colored shadows across the scene like some twisted holiday tableau. Mom's hands were white-knuckled on the table edge. Emma had tears streaming down her face. And Dad looked like a man watching his careful house of cards collapse in slow motion. "Merry Christmas," I said softly, pushing back my chair. "I think it's time we all got the truth for a change." The next 30 minutes were a masterclass in denial. Dad tried every strategy in his executive playbook. Deflection, minimization, even attempting to paint me as the villain for ambushing the family on Christmas. "This is a gross misrepresentation," he said, pacing between the china cabinet and the fireplace. "You've taken business arrangements completely out of context." I opened my laptop, pulled up the spreadsheet I'd spent 3 weeks building. "Let's talk context then. May 15th, 2018. You purchased a 5-bedroom house in Denver's Cherry Creek neighborhood. Purchase price: $1.2 million. Down payment traced to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands." Mom's wine glass shook as she poured herself a third helping. Emma had moved to sit beside her, one hand on her shoulder. "That's company property," Dad snapped. "A corporate investment." June 2018. I continued. "You registered Marcus, Sophie, and Lily at Denver Preparatory Academy. Emergency contact listed as Jennifer Preston. Relationship: mother. Your relationship: father." He stopped pacing. "You accessed private school records?" "I accessed everything, Dad. That's what I do for a living, remember? You bragged about it at Thanksgiving. How your daughter works in financial forensics at Morgan Stanley." The irony wasn't lost on any of us. He'd spent years proudly telling colleagues about my career, never imagining I'd turn those skills on his own carefully constructed facade. Monthly expenses. I clicked to the next spreadsheet. Private school: $8,000. House payment: $6,200. Jennifer's Range Rover: $1,100. Children's activities: soccer, ballet, piano lessons: $2,400. Total monthly support: approximately $22,000. Mom stood abruptly, stumbling slightly. $22,000? While you told me we needed to cut back on property taxes, while I canceled my art classes to save money. "Linda," Dad reached for her, but she recoiled. "Don't touch me." Her voice was ice. "How long?" "Linda? How long?" Dad's shoulders sagged. 6 years. I met Jennifer at a technology conference in Vegas. Emma made a sound like she'd been punched. 6 years. She'd been a senior in high school. While she was applying to colleges, stressed about tuition, our father had been starting a second family. "The kids?" Mom whispered. "They're really yours." Dad nodded slowly. The confirmation seemed to drain what little color remained in Mom's face. I pulled up another document. I have the birth certificates. All three list you as the father. You were in the delivery room for each one. Hospital records show you listed your employer's platinum insurance as primary coverage. You used our family health insurance for them. Mom's laugh was hollow. Of course you did. Why not? What's one more lie? I hadn't planned to show them everything tonight. But seeing Dad still trying to squirm out of the truth made something snap inside me. I clicked one final time, bringing up the email archive. September 2020. I read. From you to Jennifer. My love, another boring dinner with the old family. Wish I was there with you and our beautiful children instead. You're my real life. The rest is just obligation. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the Christmas tree lights seemed to dim. There are hundreds more, I said quietly. Every missed birthday, every canceled weekend, every time you told Mom you were stuck at the office. You were with them, your real family. Dad sank into his chair, head in his hands. The carefully groomed executive facade crumbled, leaving just a man who'd finally run out of lies. Emma spoke for the first time since the revelation. The house in Cape Cod, the one you said we couldn't afford to keep. Did that money go to them too? I nodded. He sold it in 2021. The proceeds were transferred to a trust fund for Marcus, Sophie, and Lily. Our summer house? Mom's voice cracked. Where we spent every August since the girls were babies. That house? I had obligations, Dad muttered. Financial commitments. To your real family, I finished. We remember. Mom stood again, steadier this time. She walked to the mantel, picked up our last family photo, taken at Emma's college graduation. Dad had left immediately after, claiming a red-eye flight to London. Where were you really that night? She asked. After Emma's graduation? Dad wouldn't meet her eyes. I pulled up the travel records. Sophie's dance recital. You flew to Denver on the 9:40 p.m. United flight. Mom set the photo face down. Get out. Linda, please. Get out. Each word was precisely enunciated, sharp as icicles. Take your obligations and your real family and get out of my house. Dad looked around desperately, but found no allies. Emma was crying silently. I sat behind my laptop, evidence of his betrayal glowing on screen. Mom had already turned away, staring out the window at the falling snow. He stood slowly, retrieved his coat and scarf. At the dining room doorway, he paused. Sarah, he said, you had no right. Actually, I cut him off. I had every right. And there's more you should know about those offshore accounts. But I think that conversation should happen with the forensic auditors present. He paled again, turned, and fled. The front door closed with a final click. In the sudden quiet, Mom whispered, "Show me everything." So I did. The days after Christmas unfolded like a financial thriller. Once Mom gave me permission to show everything, the true scope of Dad's deception emerged. I brought in my colleague Marcus from Morgan Stanley's forensic team, and we transformed our dining room into an investigation headquarters. Your father was clever, Marcus said, spreading documents across the table where Christmas dinner had imploded just days ago. But he made classic mistakes, got sloppy with the timing of transfers, started mixing personal and corporate accounts. Mom sat rigidly in her chair, absorbing each new revelation. The diamond tennis bracelet Dad gave her last anniversary, purchased the same day he bought Jennifer a Range Rover. The business trip to Paris. Hotel records showed 2 rooms, one under family Preston. What's this? Emma pointed to a recurring transfer pattern. College funds, I explained. He's been moving $5,000 monthly into 529 plans for each of the Denver kids. Meanwhile, Emma, remember when he said he couldn't contribute to your graduate school applications? Emma's face hardened, because it would build character to do it on my own. He spent $180,000 on their future education, Marcus confirmed, while deliberately undermining yours. The doorbell rang at 3:15 p.m. Dad's attorney, Philip Whitman, stood on our porch, looking uncomfortable in the December chill. Mrs. Preston, he nodded to Mom. I'm here to discuss terms. I stepped forward. Actually, you're here to listen. I've already forwarded evidence of financial misconduct to the SEC. Dad's been using corporate resources to fund his second family for years. Whitman's professional mask slipped slightly. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation, Marcus interrupted, holding up a USB drive. It's documented fact. Your client has commingled personal and corporate funds, misappropriated company benefits, and potentially committed tax fraud across state lines. We're prepared to offer a generous settlement. Mom found her voice. Generous? Like the $22,000 monthly allowance he gave them while telling me to cut back on groceries. Whitman cleared his throat. Mrs. Preston, surely we can. It's Miss Thompson now, Mom said quietly. I'm reverting to my maiden name. And you can tell Robert that generous doesn't begin to cover what he owes. I handed Whitman a folder. Our terms. Full financial disclosure. Immediate division of all assets. Mom gets the house, her art studio business, and half of everything he's hidden, including the offshore accounts. And, Emma added, her voice steel, he pays back every penny of my student loans. With interest. Whitman scanned the documents, his frown deepening. These figures are thoroughly documented, Marcus finished. The SEC will be particularly interested in how company benefits were allocated to unauthorized dependents. Robert's position at Apex is probably already compromised. I cut in. I spoke with their board this morning. They're launching an internal audit. The attorney's face went ashen. Dad's carefully constructed house of cards wasn't just falling. It was being methodically dismantled. One more thing, I added, pulling out a final document. We found the prenuptial agreement with Jennifer. The one dated 2018, claiming Dad was legally separated from Mom. That's fraud. Whitman tried one last time. Sarah, your father cares deeply about this family. Which one? Emma asked bitterly. The question hung in the air like frost. Mom stood, every inch the gallery owner she'd been before Dad convinced her to scale back. Tell Robert he has 24 hours to accept these terms. After that, we go public with everything. The company Christmas card will be particularly interesting, I added. The one where he's posed with both families, 2 weeks apart. Same tie, different lives. Whitman left with our terms, looking shaken. As the door closed, Mom's composure finally cracked. She sank onto the sofa, tears flowing freely. All those years, she whispered. All those empty chairs at dinner. Missing recitals. Canceled anniversaries. He was just with them? I sat beside her, took her hand. He's going to pay for every empty chair, Mom. Every missed moment. Emma joined us, her analyst mind still processing. The Cape Cod house, can we get it back? Marcus, packing up his files, paused. It's actually still on the market. The Denver family never moved in. Too far from their lives, I guess. Mom wiped her eyes, straightened her spine. Then that's the first thing. We're getting our summer house back. And my art studio, she added, voice stronger. No more scaling back. No more pretending to be less to protect his lies. The Christmas tree still stood in the corner, but it didn't seem to mock us anymore. The empty space where Dad's presence had been felt less like loss and more like freedom. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "You've destroyed everything." I showed it to Mom and Emma. We looked at each other, then started laughing. Not gentle laughter, the kind that comes when truth finally breaks through decades of lies. I typed back, "No, Dad. You destroyed everything. I just brought receipts." Then I blocked his number and turned back to my family, the real one, the one worth fighting for. "Now," I said, pulling up the Cape Cod real estate listings, "let's talk about summer plans." 6 months later, I sat on the deck of our reclaimed Cape Cod house, watching Mom teach her first beachfront art class. 8 students followed her brush strokes, capturing the sunset over the Atlantic. Her gallery in Boston had opened in March, funded partly by Dad's generous settlement. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Apex Technologies announces leadership changes amid financial investigation. Dad's carefully curated LinkedIn profile had already been updated. Former regional director. Emma came out carrying 2 glasses of wine, her acceptance letter to Harvard Business School tucked under her arm. "Did you see?" she asked, settling into the Adirondack chair beside me. Jennifer's listed their Denver house for sale. I had seen it. $1.2 million, same as the purchase price. The real estate photos showed empty rooms, bare walls where family photos had hung. No more backyard barbecues. "How's Mom doing?" Emma nodded toward the art class. "Better. The therapist says she's processing it all remarkably well. The gallery helps. Being able to create again, to have her own income, it's given her back her power." We watched as Mom demonstrated a technique for capturing light on water. Her laugh carried across the beach, genuine and free. No more forced smiles at empty chairs. The settlement had been comprehensive, thanks to Marcus's meticulous documentation and the SEC's keen interest in Dad's creative accounting. Mom got the house, half of all assets, including those carefully hidden offshore accounts, and a substantial monthly support structure that dwarfed what he'd been sending to Denver. Emma's student loans were paid in full, with enough left over to fund her Harvard dreams. "The irony," she said, sipping her wine, "is that Dad's character building actually worked, just not the way he intended." My phone buzzed again. A text from Marcus. "Final audit complete. Your father's severance package was denied. Board cited ethical breaches and fiduciary violations." I showed Emma the message. She smiled grimly. No golden parachute. Not even a bronze one. The last time we'd seen Dad was at the settlement signing. He'd aged decades in 6 months, his executive polish replaced by desperate exhaustion. Jennifer had already moved out, taking the kids to her parents' house in Minnesota. Turns out a secret second family is less appealing when the secret and the money disappear. "Miss Thompson?" One of Mom's art students approached our deck. "Your mother's work is incredible." We had no idea she was the same Linda Thompson from the Boston Gallery. Mom's first show had sold out opening night. Critics praised her raw emotional depth and fearless exploration of betrayal and renewal. The centerpiece, a massive canvas titled "Just Business," featured a man casting multiple shadows, each one darker than the last. It hung in the gallery's front window, visible from Dad's daily commute route. Speaking of business, Emma said after the student left, "Have you looked at the trust fund documents?" I had. Dad's real family had their own settlement to navigate. The Denver house proceeds would be split between all 5 children: Marcus, Sophie, Lily, Emma, and me. Equal distribution, the lawyers called it. Blood is blood, Emma mused, even when it's poisoned. Mom's class wrapped up as the sun melted into the horizon. She joined us on the deck, paint on her hands and peace in her eyes. "Good session?" I asked, pouring her a glass of wine. "The best yet." She settled into her chair, kicked off her sandals. "I'm thinking of making it a weekly series. Sunset and Secrets, 2 on the nose." We laughed, and the sound carried across the water like healing. "Oh," Mom added, reaching for her phone, "did you see the email from the Denver school? They're refunding half the tuition payments. Something about fraudulent application documentation." Of course I'd seen it. I'd made sure the school's financial audit team had received copies of Dad's false residency claims and forged separation papers. "I was thinking," Mom continued, "we could use that money to start a scholarship for single mothers returning to art school." Emma raised her glass. "To new beginnings." "And better business trips," I added. Mom smiled, a real smile, not the brave face she'd worn through years of empty chairs and hollow excuses. "To truth," she said simply. "However, it finds us." Later that night, as Emma and I cleaned up the art supplies, we found Mom's latest work in progress. A small canvas, still wet. 3 women on a beach, backs to a setting sun, faces turned toward tomorrow. My phone buzzed one final time. Dad's new number. Not yet blocked. The Denver house isn't selling, I don't suppose. I deleted it without responding. Some business trips, I've learned, are better left unfinished. Instead, I texted Marcus, "Cape Cod this weekend?" Mom's teaching sunset portraits. His response came quickly. "Wouldn't miss it. Bringing case files though. SEC has questions about similar patterns at other firms." I smiled, looking out at the ocean where Mom and Emma were walking along the shore, their shadows long and single in the fading light. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's reconstruction. Building something stronger from the broken pieces, creating art from ashes, and learning that family isn't about shared DNA or hollow excuses. It's about who stays when the truth comes out.